Hi, I'm back and welcome to another pre-recorded information session held by the Piedmont Triad Regional Council Area Agency on Aging. This recording today is focused on a funding opportunity that will establish home-delivered meal routes in the western part of Caswell County. Need for home-delivered meals in this area of the county has been discussed for years, and this funding provides an opportunity to address unmet needs of older adults and caregivers in this area. The PTRC AAA is procuring and allocating these funds by taking a regional approach based on the priorities established by the North Carolina Division of Aging and Adult Services. Service match is not required, and funds will remain available until expended or until September 30th, 2024, whichever comes first. Again, funds are for establishing home-delivered meal routes in the western areas of Caswell County that will serve people aged 60 years of age and older who are currently underserved or unserved for nutritional needs. Proposals must be reasonable, necessary, and justifiable. Proposals will be scored based on completeness and detailed description of intent to provide services. Priority consideration will be given to proposals that address the needs of older adults who are underserved, underrepresented, and part of the western part of Caswell County. I will now turn it over to Joe Jugans, who will share the request for application.
Welcome. As Adrian said, the project period for this funding is February 1st, 2022 through September 30th of 2024. All ARPA funds must be obligated by September 30th of 2024. Again, the Piedmont Triad Regional Council Area Agency on Aging is making one-time funding available for establishment of a specific home delivered meal route or routes in Western Caswell County. This would provide a means to reach an underserved older adult population that would benefit from receiving nutritious meals. The nutrition services provider awarded the grant funding must meet the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Division of Aging Nutrition Service standards for home delivered meals. You will notice that throughout the request for application, there are some items that have a double asterisk in front of them. These items are linked to the federal major disaster declaration. And if the federal major disaster declaration ends before a fully executed contract is in place, these flexibilities will be void and not allowed. We do not know when the federal major disaster declaration will end. The Division of Aging and Adult Services has told us that they will give us between 30 and 60-day notice prior to the end of the federal MDD. It is our hope and expectation to have all contracts fully executed before the end of the federal MDD. However, if the federal MDD ends before the contracts are fully executed, then these certain flexibilities will be void and not allowed. We will let our nutrition services providers know as soon as we become aware of the end of when the federal major disaster declaration is ending. Following along on the request for application, you will notice that there is a list of eligible home delivered meals requirements. Just to highlight them, all meals must meet the dietary guidelines outlined in the Division of Aging Nutrition Service standards, which include 1/3 of the recommended daily allowance dietary reference intake. In addition, menus are required and must be signed by a licensed dietitian nutritionist, and also a nutrient analysis must be on file with each certified menu. Home delivered meals types include hot, frozen, refrigerated, or limited shelf stable. Multiple home delivered meals may be provided to an individual at the same time. For example, 5 refrigerated meals in a box or the equivalent of 5 shelf stable meals. Up to 21 home delivered meals per client per week may be provided under this grant funding. Eligibility for home delivered meals, people age 60 plus. Income is not used to determine eligibility. And then there are special eligibility categories for folks that are under 60 years of age. Please note that a special eligibility documentation form must be used for each special eligible client, and that the determination or the categories of special eligibility are a federal decision. And what is listed in the RFA are the only categories of special eligibility for home delivered meals. Other programmatic requirements for home delivered meals, they include but are not limited to food temperature documentation, volunteer training, and nutrition education. ARPA Nutrition Services home delivered meals funding also includes non-unit reimbursement for such items as personal protective equipment, food service equipment, and other unique items that allow these services to continue. Produce bags and grocery bags are also allowed for home delivered meals clients. Take note that no more than 5% of the total of each grant award will be allowed for non-unit reimbursement items, including produce bags and grocery bags. There are reporting and documentation requirements for home delivered meals. Just to quickly go through them, a client registration form, the long form, is required. A special eligibility documentation form for all those clients who are special eligible is required. Client assessments and reassessments must be conducted for home delivered meals clients according to the Division of Aging Nutrition Service standards. Consumer contributions must be solicited and properly documented. A meal tracking form indicating the dates and number of home delivered meals delivered for each eligible client must be used. The distribution of grocery bags and produce bags must be tracked on a specially designed form. And also very important that all ARPA Nutrition Services funds must be accounted for separately in the service provider's accounting records. There are cost computation requirements for Caswell home delivered meals, Western route. These cost computation forms calculate the unit cost per home delivered meal provided. Please note that reimbursement for these funds are handled through a reimbursement system. Services provided by ARPA Nutrition Services, Caswell home delivered meals, Western route funds will be reimbursed on a monthly basis through the state's Aging Resource Management System, affectionately known as ARMS. Reimbursement is dependent upon accurate reporting of service data. And for non-unit expenses related to this funding, there will be a form on the website for reimbursement entitled Home Delivered Meals, Non-Unit Reimbursements for ARPA. Please take note that these funds will be monitored Please be aware of the importance of confidentiality and security, and also record retention and disposition. Since these are federal funds, there is a schedule provided by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Controller. The link to that schedule is in the RFA. And this schedule must be followed as to when an agency may properly dispose of records related to this grant. Again, just a reminder that if the federal major disaster declaration ends before a fully executed contract is in place, those flexibilities that are designated with an asterisk, double asterisk, will be void and not allowed. The next section of the RFA deals with submitting an application for Caswell Home Delivered Meals Western Route funding. The application is due by Wednesday, January 26th at 4 p.m. It must be submitted to the PTRC Area Agency on Aging, 1398 Carrollton Crossing Drive, Kernersville, North Carolina, 27284. Applications received after this date and time will not be considered for funding. Be aware that if you postal mail these applications, that they must arrive at the PTRC office no later than Wednesday, January 26th at 4 p.m. If you choose to hand deliver these documents, please phone ahead to ensure that someone is here to receive the documents. With the variations in the pandemic, work schedules vary almost daily depending on the tracking of the variants of COVID. Questions regarding the RFA must be submitted in writing by Wednesday, January 19th to Gwen Shields at 4 p.m. At such time and until projects are awarded, applicants are prohibited from contacting PTRC AAA staff regarding any issue relating to these funds or the application process. The PTRC Area Agency on Aging reserves the right to reject any or all applications, waive technicalities, and to be the sole judge of suitability of the services for their intended use, and further specifically reserves the right to make the award in the best interest of the PTRC Area Agency on Aging Regional Program. What follows next in the RFA is a block containing the timeline, beginning with the announcement of funding availability, a link to the pre-recorded information session, and then the final day to submit questions, January 19th. Applications due Wednesday, January 26th at 4 p.m. and contracts starting to be awarded no later than mid-February following PTRC board approval. There is a scoring tool that will be used to evaluate applications, and the tool will be available on the PTRC AAA website under the specific nutrition services links. Funding available for home delivered meals to establish a Western route or routes in Caswell County is $150,000. And finally, the last piece is the actual request for application. Please take note of certain required items. A tax ID is required. A valid DUNS number is required. and each agency is asked to submit one copy of your organization's most recent financial statements, audited or unaudited. For those organizations submitting unaudited financial statements, a completed state grant certification and sworn statement and a completed schedule of receipts and expenditures are also required, and additional information may be requested. These financial statements or financial forms need to be submitted with the 3 copies of the request for application. Next on the RFA come the application. There are 5 questions. Notice there is no word limit, so please ensure that your answers directly address the questions that are posed. Then there is a request for application budget. Let me stress with this budget that be certain to include all items in this RFA, on this RFA budget form that you will be seeking reimbursement for. Upon award of the grant, an official budget will be completed using the required cost computation forms. These cost computation forms will be checked with the budget submitted with the RFA to make sure all items are contained in both documents. It is very important to list out all items that you will be needing and using on this RFA budget form. And finally, we come to the American Rescue Plan Act bid certification statement. Be certain to read that carefully. And then the execution of the RFA, which requires a printed name, authorized signature, title, and date. Again, all items referenced in this RFA will be available on the PTRC website under ARPA Nutrition Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Certainly that was a lot that you shared. I do encourage you all to pull that RFA once again and review it, and to take note of the timeline, because there are dates that we have to stick with, and there are several of these that we're putting out. So do stick to those deadlines and contact us if you have any questions by January 19th. We look forward to hearing from you and receiving proposals.